Hi, I am Taliya Michelle, and I am the owner of TM Gray Photo. I am a wedding, portrait, and now kind of a product photographer. I've been doing it since 2013. I started out with seniors, worked my way up, did my first wedding in 2015, actually in New York, in this tiny little Italian restaurant in Brooklyn. It was my friend's mom. It was so exciting, and ever since, I have been hooked. I majored in telecommunications, but I also majored in integrative arts, and that's where I was able to combine two different art majors, which was photography and creative writing, and I was taught studio photography, and then I was self-taught in natural light photography. So everything with weddings and portraits, I learned all on my own. As a wedding photographer, I serve couples who are in love, who are also best friends. I believe that you should marry your best friend, that is the best kind of love. The person that is your ride or die, that's gonna be with you through thick and thin. That's the person that you go to. That's the person that sees you, the best of you, the worst of you. As long as you are marrying your best friend, I'm your girl. In my household, I was very used to being in front of the camera because my dad was a professional wedding photographer. Way back in the day, he and my mom moved to my hometown of State College, Pennsylvania to start a photography business, and they did that for like 20-25 years. He closed the business when I was about 3 years old, and of course, naturally, I was the only kid that took up photography. And of course, there are albums, boxes of photos of me. So I just kind of learned to love the camera. When I was 10 years old, for my birthday, I asked for money so I could buy myself my first Polaroid camera. I still have that camera to this day. It sits on my desk as a reminder of things I can accomplish and goals. I mean, I think back then it was like a $40 camera. So as a 10-year-old, that was a lot of money. But I just loved going places, capturing things. Most of the time back when I was a kid, I was capturing when we went on family vacations, just going to the park, my family cat, of course. And that grew into a love for shooting people. I would always take my friends out and I would take pictures of them, and I would just let's put on a crazy dress and have a fun experiment. Because at first for me it was more of about the art, and as I developed my love for photography, it became more about the story. I remember when I was in college, my friend asked me, hey, could you do my senior portraits? And I'm like, I've never done those before, so let's try it out. Let's see. I started taking pictures of other seniors, people I went to high school with, and it was a lot of fun. I loved it. I loved just capturing that. I loved capturing real people. I loved seeing their real smile, because most people, they don't have a lot of nice photos of themselves. I believe everybody should have a nice photo of themselves, whether it's just for your LinkedIn or just, for your significant other, or for your family, or just, something for your phone background. Because it's important, capture the real you in a photo. That's why today, I don't heavily edit my photos. I believe in genuine people, genuine stories. That's one thing I loved about weddings, because it took me about 2 years into my photography business to actually capture weddings. My friend's mom was getting married, and I'm like, this is the perfect time for me to get in. I'd really like to try it. My dad used to do it. He tells me all these cool stories, and all these crazy stories from back in the day, because he shot from the 70s to the 90s. And I was like, you know what, I want to try it. I want to see it. I know that, there is more money in it, but also it's really cool because my favorite kind of movies for rom-coms are always wedding movies. 27 Dresses and Maid of Honor. I love those stories. I think that they are so much fun. And so once I tried it and I did it, I was like, I love this. I gotta learn more. I gotta work up to being the best that I can be. I gotta develop my own style. That was something my dad always taught me, was that it takes a while to develop your style, and to look at a photo and know oh, TM Gray Photo did that. Oh, that's Taliya's work. And I feel finally, now that I'm 28 and I've been in the business for almost 10 years, I feel I finally reached a point where I'm yes, look at that photo, you can tell that is my work. That is years of studying, trying to figure out how to tell the story in the best way, while also putting a little of myself into the photo. That's why my work, I consider it bright and bold photography. Just a little bit of that light and airy, but also a teensy bit of those bolds and those shadows from the dark and moody styles. believe that my style shouldn't be trendy, but I believe, I don't believe in trendy styles. I believe that my style should match my personality, which is another reason why I call it bright and bold, because I feel like I'm a very bright person and I have a very bold personality. So that's why I like my photos to reflect that. When I discovered that I loved shooting weddings, I was like, okay, like I need to figure out what my style is going to be, because I could shoot weddings all day, but I want consistency. I want to create a brand for myself. And that's when I discovered Caitlin James. I have actually since met her in person, but the way she teaches her photography really worked for me, because I have ADHD and anxiety. So my brain, I learn a little bit differently. And the way that she teaches, the way she explains stuff, made a lot of things finally click together for me. So I followed a lot of her work, I read her blog posts, I took some of her courses, and I was able to develop a similar style, because she shoots more light and airy, but I just found that her work like finally hit me. I struggled in school in general, learning, and just I've never gotten straight A's a day in my life. And finally, like when I discovered her educational materials, I was like, I can understand this completely. Her examples make sense to me, and everything, just like I said, started to click. And then I also discovered Amy and Jordan and so many other photographers like Rebecca Rice, who all had similar styles and similar ways that they taught people that really worked for the way that my brain worked. So once I was able to do that, I took their knowledge and turned that into what I do today. Through the education that I received from Caitlin James and Amy and Jordan and Rebecca Rice, I learned two main things that I would love other people to know. My first thing was posing. Because of the way I speak, the way my brain works, that was the first thing I went for when I discovered their education. I was like, I need to learn how to talk to people so I can get them to do what I need them to do in front of the camera. And I also learned that it's gonna feel awkward when you're on the other side of the camera. When you're in front of the lens, if you're doing something, you're a photographer, you're a videographer, whoever tells you like, oh, do this, like, oh, swing your hips this way, or whatever it is, it might feel awkward, but it actually looks better in front of a camera. So it's gonna turn out way, way better than you think. So if it feels awkward, you're doing it right. The second thing I think I would learn, or that I learned from my education through Caitlin James and Amy and Jordan, Rebecca Rice, was shooting manually. Before that education that I had, I was kind of shooting manually, but it was kind of all over the place. And learning all the different ways that I can control light with my camera, control color, because I now only shoot in Kelvin. I can change my settings way less frequently, and the consistency of my work is way, way better because I've got way more control over my camera. So I think that shooting in manual, no matter what you shoot, no matter what your subject is, whether it's birds, whether it's people, whether it's buildings, learning how to shoot manual, learn all those ins and outs of your camera, that is the best thing you can do for yourself, no matter if it's like a super expensive Hasselblad camera or a little point and shoot little Canon or Nikon, whatever you call it. Learn the ins and outs and all the ways that you can control light with your camera, and you will be successful no matter what your gear is. Today, what inspires me to shoot weddings is actually just myself. When I am behind the camera, I want to make people feel like themselves. I want to make people feel joyful. I want to capture the real, genuine human emotions that they are sharing between each other. And so my style is bright and bold, because it matches my personality. So I want my photos to reflect that. I want you to look at them and be happy. Remember that moment. Remember those feelings when you were like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. And just overall, just feel excited when you look at photos of yourself. On the wedding day, my approach is organization. Planning. It's very important for me, especially as a person who has ADHD and anxiety. Knowing like kind of how the day is going to go, knowing what to expect to some degree, keeps me on track, keeps the day flowing, and keeps the energy up. So one of the things I like to do is when I have my timeline, when I go over that with my clients, I take that, I put it in my phone, I also put it in my calendar on my watch, so I have little reminders throughout the day, and I take that knowledge and I have it here so I can always look at it and be like, all right, this is what's coming next. Like, this is how long I have to capture this. So like from the minute that I step onto the venue, I am ready to go. I understand what the day is going to look like. I go around, I check everything out, and then I go greet my clients. Most of my clients do engagement shoots with me, so I've had time with them in front of the camera before. But I go and I kind of feel out the energy, because when you are with a person who is with like their crew, their people, you kind of want to match the energy in the room. My clients range from introvert to extrovert, and I myself am an ambivert. I feel like it depends on the situation whether I'm going to be more loud and talkative versus quiet and reserved, which is kind of also how I approach the wedding day. So most of the time I try to take candid photos, except for those moments that we need to capture, those important moments. Like, of course, I have, you know, it's very important for me to capture both people looking at the camera, a kiss shot, a shot of you both being serious, one looking at the other versus one looking at the camera. I have a couple like set list of things, but otherwise I try to like blend into the background and kind of be that extra cheerleader for you, that extra bridesmaid for you on your wedding day. I've been to so many weddings now, so like if you need help with your dress, if you need help with your bow tie, I'm there. I'm that person for you. I think what separates me from other people is just honestly my personality. I find that when I greet people and I'm just naturally myself, they're just kind of like, wow, like you're like so happy, you're so peppy, like you're like such like a great like cheerleader and whatnot. And I find that when I'm working with other people, sometimes they are that way. But you know, people have a range of personalities, but most people are just kind of like surprised by just my natural energy. I don't know if you're gonna believe me or not, but I don't drink coffee. I don't consume any type of caffeine. So when I show up on a wedding day, that is me, like fresh out of bed. I just wake up and I go. So I guess another thing that kind of sets me apart is just the way I treat people. I treat people the way I want to be treated. I treat them like my friends. I try to be open with people and honest. Like if I like do something like kind of silly in front of the camera, or if I trip over my words, I make fun of myself a lot. I be myself. I try to be open. I try to like tell people, personal things. I try to relate to them the best that I can, because it's important that the person behind the camera is capturing the real you. And if you get to know me, it helps you become more comfortable so that you can get those real images of yourself. So when I first started shooting weddings, there was a lot that I didn't know. My friend, her mom was getting remarried, so I was just like, I'm gonna go for it, I'm gonna do it. Before that, I do wish that I had learned that it's better to second shoot or be a third assistant shooter, because then you get experience watching how a wedding actually works. I hadn't actually been to too many weddings in my lifetime before I started shooting weddings, and I just went for it. It took about 2-3 years of me shooting weddings before I was able to actually second shoot and be an assistant for other people, which increased my skill exponentially. Once 2019 came and I was able to be a second shooter, I learned so much by being able to step back and not have all the pressure be on me and take direction from somebody else. That really helped me, because I feel like if you looked at my photos before 2019, they're kind of, sorry, past clients, they're okay. I mean, that happens to everybody. But once 2019 came and I was able to shoot more consistently, I had my calendar filled up a lot more. I was learning from wonderful photographers from all over. It just opened my eyes to all the possibilities, to all of the organizational things, to just how wedding day is supposed to be. Because when a wedding day comes, I tell my clients this all the time, it's gonna go by so fast. All of a sudden it's like, boom, you're married. And when you look back at the photos, that's what you have. When you look back at your videos, that's what you have. Those memories, because it just goes by so quickly because it's just such a rush. So I think it's important to try and experience it from a non-lead photographer standpoint as much as you possibly can in the beginning, to just gain that knowledge, to observe other people, to really see how they interact and all those little things, and really see how it comes together before it's your turn behind the main camera. When I first started shooting weddings and portraits in general, I went a little crazy on my presets and my overlays. I spent $3,000 one year on presets, overlays, and all sorts of stuff because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I would say when you're like ready to like, I want to shoot portraits, I want to shoot weddings, I want to do this, kind of study what other people have done, other like people who are like established. Also kind of take a look at like, what do you want your photos to look like? Because for a long time when I purchased all those, every photo looked completely different. And that for some people works, but I really wanted to create consistency. I really wanted to create a brand. And I'm like, that's when I discovered Caitlin James. And I was like, okay, I want my photos to be consistent. I want to have like a particular look to mine because I want someone to come to my website, look at my photos and say, that's what I want. That's the way I want to be captured. So when you are first starting out, take a chance to look at what you want, the way other people are shooting. Like if you're like, I want to do dark and moody, or I want to do light and airy, whatever it is, take a look at that and try to learn from those kinds of people because that'll help you way more than just spending all these money on overlays and presets. Save your money as much as you can in the beginning, especially if you want to like upgrade your gear. I don't use any of those overlays today. And that was unfortunately a regret. Like maybe like once a year I like dust them off. But overall I just found that I was just spending money because I thought I had to. As a wedding photographer, I believe it is important to capture all love stories of all kinds. I know that the wedding industry in general is not always a very inclusive place. So I always make sure that all of my clients, all of my potential future clients, anybody who's looking at my work knows that I want to capture just real people in love. Love is love, and people are who they are. If you've got different pronouns, if you are in a same-sex relationship, if you are doing a different religious ceremony, if you're doing a non-traditional ceremony, I just want to capture your love story. I love real people, I love real smiles, I love real stories, and that's what I'm here for. I believe that the wedding industry should be a more inclusive place. So I always try to change my language. Like instead of saying bridal party, I say wedding party. Instead of saying bachelorette or bachelor party, I say batch party. I try to say partner and spouse and just make sure that people know that this is a place where you are safe, this is a place where you are welcome, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that that comes through on your wedding day. At TM Gray Photo, I have two main full-day coverage packages. So my main package comes with a second photographer, always. You get your gallery online. I think it's very important that once you have paid for your photos, that you get to keep them forever. So once you have that link, it is yours. You can send those to your mom, your dad, your friends, your aunts, your uncles, whoever, and they can download the photos, no extra cost. I believe that's just very important. Like you've paid thousands of dollars already for the work. There's no reason that I believe that you should pay to have your gallery to be up longer or for any limited amount of time. I also have included 120 miles coverage range, which includes the entire state of New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, New York City, a little bit of upstate New York, as well as Long Island, and half of Connecticut, the western half of Connecticut, to be more specific. I love traveling. I love going places, so even if it's not in that coverage area, we can talk about it in more detail, but it's just it's a little extra mileage. Like I've gone to Virginia, West Virginia, Massachusetts even. If you have a wedding and you want me to capture it, I will be there. I got my passport, I'm ready to go. But also within my packages, I also include engagement sessions because I believe that when you have an engagement session, you'll be able to be more comfortable in front of the camera on your wedding day. It's very important that because on your wedding day, you have so many things going on. So it's very important that you don't have to worry about the photographer at all. You know what to expect. You're already comfortable because outside of your wedding and engagement photos, most people don't get professional photos taken. And if they do, it's usually senior portraits. So I think it's important to get that establishment. Plus on your wedding day, you're not alone very frequently with your spouse. So when you have that 90-minute session that is included in my packages, we get a lot of time to just be yourself in front of the camera, 2 outfits, lots of photos of just the 2 of you together outside of your wedding attire. And then my other package, my top tier package, comes with an album, flash drive, and a print package, because I believe that when you fill your home with those memories, it makes your home just a more loving and wonderful place. I grew up, as my dad was a professional photographer. There were always photos of us all over the house, and it just made it such a more inviting and warming, welcoming, safe space to be in. I also do a la carte packages that start with a minimum of 2 hours that I do by myself, where you can add on a second photographer. But I know some people, since the pandemic, sometimes they want to do shorter weddings, or they just need a little bit of coverage. And I love doing that for people, just so that they have an option to have like a 4-hour, 5-hour package or whatever you need, just to be able to capture your wedding day. I believe that having a second photographer is such a great idea. That's why it's included in both of my main packages. When you have an 8-hour wedding day, a lot of people usually have like 100 to 150 guests. Usually there's a lot going on the wedding day. A lot of people love doing first looks. And when you have that second photographer, it guarantees that you have got like the maximum coverage for all the moments going on. If there's two things that have to happen at the same time, we've both got you covered, especially like during like the cocktail hour, where like I go off and do details, and then they go off and they take pictures of you and your friends, or during the first look, so we can get both of your reactions at the same time. Also, just in case, God forbid, something happens and I can't, or my second can't get one of the moments, we've still got it on one of the cameras. Now, I also shoot with 2 cameras during the day, which extra like doubles the coverage. But second photographers are really, really important. It's also great to have somebody to bounce my ideas off of, someone to like go grab something if I need them to, that kind of like act as a little bit of an assistant too. And it's just really great to have that like guarantee that we're gonna have the maximum amount of photos for you. So you can get lots of different angles, especially if you're having your wedding album. You can have like more up close pictures of like little detail shots, while I'm also taking like wider shots of the both of you. It just gives more variety and makes your whole gallery just filled with much better quality images, in my opinion. As a 90s baby, I grew up with like that Sears family photo, portraits all over the house. To this day, my parents still have the picture of me and all the kids when we were all little babies. I was the baby of the family. So I was a little baby, and my oldest brother, he was like 16, 17. So they still have that picture hanging in the living room to this day. Memories, sometimes memories don't last forever. Sometimes, you don't have a picture perfect memory. I personally can't remember exactly everything, all those details. And I love prints because they're just such a wonderful way to have like that moment displayed. One thing I love about like just looking back at old pictures is that, especially people who are no longer with us, we have those moments captured. We can see them, they're right in front of us. And just looking back at the way that they are, having them in your home, having them in albums to look through, they tell stories. They are physical stories that you can hold in your hands, moments frozen in time that you get to hold on to forever. That if you have children, if your children get to see them, your grandchildren, and several generations from now, they get to see them. Like when you go to museums or things, and you're looking at old pictures of things, like those people again are no longer with us, but we have those moments that just capture what it was like right then and there. And I just think that's so beautiful to really see that and capture it visually. On a wedding day, I always make sure that these 3 things are with me. I carry safety pins, so when there is an incident, I've got you covered. That's happened before. Unfortunately, this bride's dress, it wasn't closing all the way. I was able to give her safety pins. I was the only one there out of her entire wedding party, out of the vendors that had them, and I was able to save her dress from being torn open later in the wedding day. So safety pins, very, very important. I always carry a Tide pen with me because sometimes things happen, you get little stains. Like we were taking pictures some time ago with a bride, and there was a little bit of mud on the bottom of her dress, and we hadn't gotten to the ceremony yet. Thankfully, my Tide pen got that little stain out. Very, very important to have that on a wedding day. So safety pins, Tide pens, and the third thing that I always have on me are eye drops. It's always good to have eye drops. Like, I do not want anything obstructing my vision. I do not want to have itchy eyes. I need my eyes to do my job. So always having eye drops to prevent allergies or just to clear away any redness, just to make sure that I can see. Very, very important to me on a wedding day. Go check out my website at tmgrayphoto.com. That's gray with an E because I like spelling it the British way. Or check out my Instagram for all of my latest work at tmgrayphoto. Also check out my blog on my website at tmgrayphotoblog.com because I love giving people tips with all my experience as a wedding photographer. And then check out that contact page and let's talk about how I can make your story come to life.